Hello and welcome to the Season 4 edition of my Guilty Gear Strive Character Overview series. This video contains guides for every character up to Season Pass 4, highlighting their strengths, weaknesses, and toolkit. Every character in Guilty Gear Strive sports a unique mechanic to separate themselves among the cast, and this video gives special attention to these defining characteristics. Afterwards, we'll do an Archetype Roundup to neatly categorize these characters among core attributes to help you push to make the final decision on who you want to play. If you're unfamiliar with any of the game's notation, don't worry, as attack inputs and character attributes will appear on these segments of the screen when they're mentioned for each character.
Duel 1. Let's rock. Soul Badguy.
The titular Guilty Gear himself, Soul Badguy is an aggressive, all-out fighter who strikes fear in the hearts of his opponents with his strong and well-rounded toolkit. Soul features a kit similar to a traditional Shoto character, but with a more offensive focus. His buttons, while shorter range than a lot of the cast, are extremely quick and hard to whiff punish, and reward him with excellent damage on hit and consistent scary strike throw on block. Of note is his Far Slash, a quick forward-advancing mid that is +2 on block and cancelable into his highest damage frame trap, 5H, a wild haymaker that beats your opponent's life bar into submission and forces them to stand still, at which point, Soul could use his exceptional throws to make them squirm and reinforce those frame traps. Soul's Wild Throw is a high-damage, untechable command grab that side-switches the opponent on connect, and Soul's regular throw, while seemingly just a normal throw, actually gives Soul enough advantage to go for a very powerful left-right mix-up that can be extremely tricky to defend against. In neutral, Soul tends to play the role of the aggressor, but his kit affords him a lot of ways to do so. Soul has a quick and consistent dash block, letting him safely get in on zoners, many fast-moving special moves that can let him swing in for a surprise counter hit in the blink of an eye, a long-reaching poking tool and success to keep opponents from getting too comfortable at the mid-range, an excellent whiff punisher in 6H, and amazing air mobility options such as Bandit Bringer, a dive kick that can be held to extend its duration and mix up its timing, making it exceptionally hard to anti-air.
Soul's combos are highly damaging, and key to his routing is his core mechanic, Clean Hit. On various special moves, if Soul can connect them within a specific radius, they'll receive enhanced properties such as more damage and better combo potential. Volcanic Viper stands out as his highest damage attack when the H version clean hits, and the S version is an invulnerable reversal, allowing Soul to wake up and escape pressure scot-free. A key trait of Soul's toolkit is adaptability. His low whiff recovery normals allow him to counter-poke safely, his fast mobility options let him swing in quick, his normals let him play neutral competently with almost every character in the game, and overall, he has a lot of room to adjust his playstyle in the middle of the match if what he was trying before wasn't working. Soul can struggle to get in against characters that have good screen coverage and has to put himself at risk to go for mix-ups, but these downsides are very much avoidable in the hands of the right player. If huge hits, an adaptable kit, and scaring your opponent to is your thing, then Soul Badguy, the Flame of Corruption, might be the right character to kindle your fire.
出直してこい。
Kai Kiske, the first king of Illyria and the rival to Soul Badguy, takes a different spin on the Shoto archetype than his hothead in-law. Where Soul zeroes in on ruthless pressure and offense, Kai instead takes a step back and refines a more distinguished attribute, one fitting of a king. Absolutely disgustingly good neutral. Kai Kiske is the king of Illyria, and the king of the neutral game as well. Kai's numerous ranged pokes all have great range, speed, and are notoriously hard to whiff punish. In addition, Kai is able to get clean and consistent knockdowns off of these stray neutral hits thanks to Stun Dip.
And on block, he can cancel into his Stun Edge or Dire Clock to safely push the opponent away and apply his unique mechanic, Shock State. Shock State is a debuff that enhances Kai's special moves, making them threatening on block and enhancing his combos on hit.
As mentioned, Kai's buttons are good.
His 2S is a fast, long-reaching low that checks the opponent's movement like a charm, and his far slash complements it perfectly by having shorter range, but better dash momentum preservation, faster startup, and a longer disjoint suitable for counterpoking. Kai's 6H is a slow but reliable tool in neutral that crushes 6Ps for massive damage near the wall. His own 6P is a high-class counterpoke for mids and aerial attacks. Kai also has a very reliable ground and air fireball that keeps opponents from getting too comfortable from a range and coaxes them into making critical mistakes that he can exploit. Finally, Kai has Stun Dipper, and let's be real, if there's one move you're playing this character for, this is it. A fast, advancing low that goes across nearly half the screen and scores a soft knockdown on hit. Doesn't sound too impressive on paper, but in practice, Stun Dipper is one of the most oppressive, defining neutral tools in the entire game, and stands as a consistent looming threat for the opponent every single step they take. Now, I'm sure you already understand that Kai's neutral is good, but what if I told you we haven't even scratched the surface of how terrifying this character can actually be there? The truth is, I've only told you half the story, because Kai's neutral on its own is strong, sure, but with 50 meter, you might as well be facing down a god. Stun Dipper goes from being a strong but low damage neutral check into a full combo or pressure starter from anywhere on the screen with 50 meter. His average reward pokes now can take you from corner to corner with either his exceptionally versatile RC combos or his Ride the Lightning super, the super with the single biggest corner carry in the entire game. And coolest of all, if Kai is low on health, he can activate Dragon Install. Dragon Install is a powerful buff that lasts the entire rest of the round and grants Kai power-ups to every single one of his special moves. DI Kai threatens everything normal Kai does, but with higher damage, better offense, better neutral, better everything. However, it can be incredibly tricky to find a situation where you can both enter Dragon Install and not immediately die for it right after. Outside of neutral, Kai's defense is also strong. He is a DP like Soul, but no overwhelmingly strong mash-out option like Soul's 5k. Unfortunately, Kai's biggest weakness is his offense. Kai lacks strong mid-screen damage like Soul has no naturally plus normals outside of 6k, a slow and admittedly gimmicky block string reset, and doesn't have an exceptionally powerful throw or any meterless mix-up options to make the opponent really want to mash on his frame traps at all. His Oki is serviceable. After a knockdown, Charge Stun Edge allows Kai to get an enforced standard strike throw free, but there is little incentive for the opponent to not simply block Kai out and return to neutral, meaning if Kai wants to keep the advantage, he must go for shimmies and frequent throws to make the opponent scramble on defense, all of which could easily end his turn if the opponent guesses right. If this doesn't bother you, then Kai Kiske is an exceptional pick thanks to his best-in-class neutral and strong defense, and with powerful checkmate tools like Stun Dipper RC, you'll be sure to shock your opponent when you slide across the screen for a quick and easy victory.
今回は私の勝利ですね。それでも戦士ですか?
On themselves, they blame the beasts. I've been
Mei is the adorable sea life-loving first mate of the Jellyfish Pirates, and her peppy personality complements her toolkit almost perfectly. Mei as a character is built around two things, mobility and damage. Mei's kit is centralized around her Mr. Dolphin specials, rushing special moves that send Mei flying across the screen ready to attack anyone in her way. This special has incredible speed, deals solid damage on counter hit, and lets her set up threatening RPS on block. Mei can choose between a horizontal and a vertical version, making her approach angles very tricky to read. If you're worried about Mr. Dolphin being a bit too linear of an approach option, don't worry. The first thing all good riders learn is how to bail. Mei can leave the Dolphin on the ground with Whiff, stopping her momentum, which is great for baiting anti-airs and important to her pressure damage. She can also leap into the air with Split, which lets her hop over and punish attacks directed towards the Dolphin and grants her access to powerful mix-ups after a knockdown. Turns out, having a full-screen rushing special move that kills you on counter hit available at any time you have back charge is actually pretty strong and makes it really hard to play against her, even just standing there.
and her 5H serves as an incredible counterpoke to stop opponents from pressing buttons into the way of where her dolphins might be heading from. Mei can also convert into soft knockdowns from almost all her pokes thanks to 3K being fast enough to combo in from jabs and her kick normals. But even then, that's not all Mei has to offer. Mei has, without a doubt, one of the best jumps in the game, with insane height, speed, fall speed, air stalls, and air normals. Her JD gives her what can basically be seen as infinite extra double jumps that she can use for as long as she can stay up in the sky.
JS is a great approaching air normal that beats almost every anti-air in the game,
including 6P thanks to its low-reaching hurtbox. JH is a huge air-to-air swing that stops anyone trying to meet her in the sky, and J2H stops her momentum dead for strong left-right mix-ups and variations on her landing position. Mei's offense is not just strong because of the threat of high damage. She has some incredibly potent offensive tools to help her get those hits too. Her close slash is incredibly plus, builds lots of risk, and sets her up to frame trap with a number of different attacks. From almost any normal she can frame trap into 6H, which is her big damage dealer. This is an anchor swing that can be released early to frame trap the opponent, or held to guard crush them and reset the block string with some plus frames. If she's out of range for this, no worry. Mr. Dolphin Horizontal also serves as a reset and frame trap tool, with the S version frame trapping off any hit and the H version being mashable but leaving her at +7. Both of these moves, as in the theme of Mei's kit, kill your opponent on counter hit, so they better not be wrong. As if all that wasn't enough, Mei also has a high damaging command grab that nets her a combo on hit. If Mei ever finds herself out of options on offense, no worry. She has a number of eject buttons including Mr. Dolphin Vertical, her jump, and her incredible backdash to proc the opponent into starting to move again, at which point, return to neutral and rinse repeat. Really, the only thing of Mei's you could call a weakness is her reliance on RPS. Most of Mei's offense can be interacted with by the opponent, and if Mei gets the answer wrong, they get out for free. But, then again, if Mei is right, they take way more damage than she ever would have. So, I'll leave you to fill in the details. Mei can also do less damage on normal hit than average, needing meter, a counter hit, or the corner for her cash outs, but, again, you've seen what her cash outs look like. Hardly an issue. If you don't mind rolling the dice every now and then and find it cathartic to watch your opponent's jaw drop as you turn their life bar to dust, Mei is the perfect character for you.
Mankind knew that they cannot change society, so instead of reflecting on themselves, they blamed the beasts.
Axl Low, Guilty Gear's resident zoner, is a cunning fighter who'd rather keep his distance from the opponent than get up close and personal. For Axl, the name of the game is screen control, and boy does he have it in spades. Axl's normals cover wide areas of the screen and reach farther than any other buttons in the game, allowing him to attack the opponent from way outside of the range where they can fight back, forcing them to get aggressive and run directly into the source of the danger. Luckily, Axl has more than his long-range normals to keep these opponents at bay. He also has incredible mid-range tools in his K-normals, an extremely quick far slash,
and Rainwater, a backflipping special move to build distance and punish approaches.
These tools help Axl keep an opponent who gets up to that mid-range scared of his neutral presence, and if Axl successfully lands a hit at any of these ranges, he can convert into simple knockdowns using Snail or Rensen to deal a little bit of damage and push the opponent back to full screen to try again.
This long-range aptitude is only accentuated with Axl's unique mechanic, Tipper Hit. At the tip of Axl's normals, he does extra damage, meaning approaching Axl comes with a heavy life bar toll.
Axl's Rensen is a dominating tool at full screen, which forces the opponent to take some chip damage and eat risk before starting their approach, making each of Axl's mid-range hits feel more impactful, and its follow-ups can mix up an opponent that might be too gung-ho on getting in, using Rensen 8 to catch a jumping opponent, 2 to catch an opponent who swings themselves at you, Winter Cherry to catch a dashing opponent, and Delayed Winter Cherry to do extra damage and chip to one who stays put. On top of that, Axl has a full screen command grab that he can use once he's conditioned the opponent to block Rensen on a full screen wake up, but the command grab is slow and as such shouldn't be used frequently. Now, you might think Axl's weakness is his defense, but you'd be wrong. Axl lacks a DP, sure, but his 2K is the single strongest 5-frame in the game and has incredible speed and low profile, making it quite tricky to run offense against the guy. So, surely it's his damage then, right? Nope.
While Axl's damage is low off long-range hits, Axl can pull off some seriously incredible numbers off hits such as Rainwater or any jump-cancelable normal near the corner thanks to his strong Rainwater and Bomber Loop combos.
Is it his offense? Well, sort of. It's true that Axl doesn't have amazing offense and can be blocked out pretty easily, but what does Axl care about his block string ending and him going back to zoning you? You see, Axl's real weakness is commitment. When I was explaining Axl's normals, I wouldn't blame you for asking yourself how could Axl not just be better than Kai in that regard. They both want to control the neutral, and Axl's moves go much farther. Surely that's just better. In some degrees, yes, but where Kai excels that Axl struggles is commitment. Kai's normals are not only quick to start, but quick to recover. Axl has no such luxury. His buttons have some of the longest total duration in the entire game and are all very disadvantageous on block, meaning one good callout on Axl's next move can give the opponent the opening they need to hit him and win the round. While this weakness can initially be hard to overcome, the power of Axl's normals cannot be understated. If you want a character who zones in style, keeps the screen under his control, and punishes anyone who dares approach with reckless abandon, then say hi to Axl Low. Oh well, and he is a time stop super. You know you think this is sick.
Chipp Zanuff.
Chipp Zanuff, the Godspeed Ninja, is a pixie character who prides himself on being a jack of all trades, master of most of them. Chipp excels in his speed in particular, sporting the fastest dash in the game, a triple jump, a wall run,
A tightrope run,
2 different dive kicks, and an incredibly quick air dash. All of this makes it extremely difficult to challenge Chipp in neutral and catch him as he swoops across the entire screen like a hawk, or alternatively, a particularly annoying fly. However, this fly bites, and he bites down hard thanks to his exceptional offense and consistent reward off the openings he secures. Chipp's 5K is one of the game's most egregious pressure tools, as it's allowed to chain into itself, cancel into many strong frame traps, and leave minimal gaps when adding microdashes into the mix, making it extremely hard to escape even layer 1 of Chipp's pressure. Once you get past the 5K and the frame traps following, Chipp has a series of rekkas that keep the offense going for additional resets or frame traps, and the only way out is to somehow guess exactly which one of the multiple reset choices he'll try to steal his turn back on, or call his bluff and block the entire string out. But wait, there's more! Chipp also has Gamma Blade, a challenging to react to plus on block reset tool that makes all of this even scarier, and a ton of mix-up options that can be done from pressure such as his command grab. His Alpha Blade, which hits cross-up, and his incredibly fast dash throw. Once Chipp gets a hit and scores a knockdown, his offense only gets stronger, as now before you do all of that you have to hold an unreactable mix-up or two thanks to his ambiguous cross-up air dashes and unique wall-running mix-ups. It only becomes more scary when you consider that Chipp builds meter extremely efficiently and can spend it to convert almost every one of these hits into a corner-to-corner wall break.
All that to say, Chipp's offense is nightmarish, and that's before even mentioning Chipp's unique mechanic, running attack. Chipp has the ability to run on the wall or his tightrope special, and while doing so, he's allowed to use his attacks while continuing to run, letting Chipp perform even more devastating pressure and mix than before, and extending his combo potential even further beyond.
Chipp's neutral is also excellent due to his incredibly high dash speed and fast normals, making him a champion whiff punisher, and even if he's late, he can still apply pressure on block with his reckless. He does have a unique weakness in neutral that should be mentioned, and that is his struggle with fast low attacks, such as a good low profile 2K. Chipp's long-range counter-poking normals all either get low-profiled, or are slow enough that unless Chipp gets a good read on the opponent, they will likely end up being able to block the incoming attack, meaning Chipp has to rely on quick whiff punishes or air approaches to beat these attacks, which is easier said than done considering the low recovery that is typical of a crouching kick.
Additionally, his reward at the end of his strings is lacking, as his Rekkas need a crouch confirm to end in a knockdown and otherwise leave Chipp minus on hit, meaning he really needs meter or an early counter hit to get the ball rolling. On defense, Chipp also excels, sporting both a 4-frame and a DP, just like Soul.
All in all, Chipp has excellent offense, defense, neutral, combos, and mobility, but lacks one important thing that keeps him from being completely overpowered: HP. Chipp has the single lowest base HP in the game, and a few of his key tools put him at risk of eating huge combos. His DP is massively disadvantageous on block and counter hit recovery, and his Gamma Blade can be attacked by the opponent. What does that mean? Well, Chipp can be hit by an attack while doing Gamma Blade. The Gamma Blade can also be hit by an attack. So this is what that means. If being an absolute unstoppable powerhouse that dominates the game until you're swatted like a fly appeals to you, then learn the ways of the ninja with Chipp Zanuff.
暇つぶしにもなんねえ。やる気あんのかよ。
He's big, he's slow, he's deadly, he's Potemkin. And if you've ever seen a fighting game before, you already know exactly what Potemkin does. Potemkin is Guilty Gear's staple big body grappler, a character archetype that sacrifices mobility for crushing offense and the most powerful strike throw in the game. First thing you gotta know about Potemkin before we go any further is he doesn't have a dash. Like, he just cannot dash like the rest of the cast. Ground or air, it's a no-go. He has to walk everywhere, or use special moves like Hammerfall or Megafist to gain space. Additionally, his buttons are quite slow and tricky to use effectively, making him generally feel uncomfortable until he gets his hit. What sets Pot apart from the rest of the cast, however, is that when he gets said hit, it doesn't matter when, what, or where that hit was, the game could be over within the next 2 seconds. Potemkin has challenging, yet rewarding to learn combos thanks to his 6K, which allows him to Kara cancel into any special move for an added boost in forward momentum, which lets him utilize advanced combo routes, get Oki off things he otherwise wouldn't, and, do this.
Potemkin can also use Heat Tackle to get hard knockdowns off of mid-range pokes, further increasing his threat level in neutral.
Once you do finish that combo and the opponent touches the ground, they experience fear like nothing else as Potemkin uses Garuda Impact, an insanely plus chip-damaging guard crush to safely force them to stand still and hold his incoming mix-up. They then get one chance to guess for their life before Potemkin ends it prematurely with either a high-damaging frame trap or his Potemkin Buster, the single most damaging command grab in the game. Potemkin also has a slew of frame traps and resets to keep the opponent stressed even if they just block him, as he can end block strings with FDB to frame trap or go into Garuda to force that strike throw. Potemkin also has very high damage hard callouts to every defensive option that can be used to beat Potemkin Buster, such as 6H, which will smack a backdashing opponent for full corner carry and a combo, and Heat Knuckle, which will drag the opponent back down into his loving embrace if they try to escape with a jump. While Potemkin's neutral can be a struggle, he has the tools to make up for it, such as FDB, a flicking attack that can reflect projectiles at the opponent,
or his unique mechanic, Super Armor. Some of Potemkin's specials can sustain a single hit while continuing to complete their activation, with approach tools such as Hammerfall and Heat Tackle, as well as Slide Head, an armored full-screen low that secures a hard knockdown on hit. These tools make it so Pod is never truly helpless against any powerful zoner and makes him a consistent looming threat. With Meter, his neutral becomes a lot better thanks to Hammerfall RC, allowing him to armor through an attack, then cancel his usually punishable on-block Hammerfall into a powerful plus on-block pressure. He also gains access to Gigantor Kai, a giant energy wall that goes across the entire screen and practically ensures Pod gets at least one chance to make you block. Hitting someone in neutral can be challenging for Pod, but thanks to his high health and strong win condition, he can afford to lose some interactions before running the opponent over once he gets his turn. So if you don't mind having to play a little patient and waiting for your turn to play, but you do like putting the fear of God into your opponents once you get there, you may want to bulk up with Potemkin.
状況に移行する。
The strange, the confusing, the frightening, the absurd. These are the things that Faust calls his own. One of Guilty Gear's most divisive characters, Faust is a neutral-oriented character who relies heavily on his What Could This Be special move, which pulls out an entirely random item from a set list of items that all affect the match in some way. Faust's items are the cornerstone of his entire kit, and enable all of Faust's most powerful options. He can use his items for a number of creative ways, whether it's screen control, offense, defense, set play, combos. He can surely use an item to switch the situation into his favor. Becoming a Faust player is all about learning how to use these items effectively, as every single one of them can be used to help Faust in some way, but they are all equally as capable of hurting Faust if lost sight of. Faust's kit is naturally synergistic with these items, with examples such as normally slow and disadvantageous teleport, turning into an instant, completely unreactable cross if he has an item about to damage the opponent, a command grab that can swipe the opponent right before they would have blocked an item and place a dangerous debuff on them, and strong poking normals to keep the opponent back as he continues to fish for the right items.
While it may seem a little too hard to plan for item usage when you don't even know what you'll get at first, Faust actually has a way around this. Faust can eat the item he pulls after pulling it, storing it for later use. This way, while the item is still completely random, you'll know what's about to come out when you launch it later in the match. This can force powerful item combinations and help Faust set up situations that guarantee him access to usage of his more powerful items. Faust's kit works without items, having long-range buttons to control space and neutral, a powerful dive kick to mix up his ground and air game thanks to its incredibly quick activation, and a number of simple yet effective frame traps, but it can't be stressed enough how important items are to enabling this character. Pretty much everything Faust has is a little weaker than what a standard character might, but the items throw in an aspect of chaos and absurdity that can push him over the top in the right situation. Your core principle while playing Faust should be situational awareness, as I can't stress enough how important it is to keep track of what's going on the screen. Of note is Faust's Afro, which is a debuff applied from an item or from his command grab that makes the opponent's hurt box taller and strips them of their upper body invuln from anti-air attacks, allowing Faust to hit dangerous fuzzies. After the Afro is applied, if whoever has it on is blocked or hit with a fire move, the Afro will explode shortly after, allowing for added pressure on block or a bigger combo on hit. Additionally, the Afro can be used to enhance Love, Faust's air projectile, to make it travel across the ground and guard crush the opponent. Other important items to watch out for would be Mini Faust, a small unit who walks randomly across the screen and when touched, becomes enraged and lunges at the opponent, making him great for screen control as well as sneaking in a mix-up between his fiery hitbox and the jump. Meteors is Faust's jackpot, hitting almost the entire screen with raining guard crushes from above and allowing Faust to teleport for a risk-free mix-up during the shower. Trumpet is a collectible item that sends an army of mini-Fausts running across the screen that will lock down the opponent for extended combos, which can be amazing for Faust. But the trumpet can be picked up by the opponent, which will send the army after Faust instead. If you enjoy the idea of an incredibly adaptable and versatile kit that will keep you constantly guessing, and don't mind occasionally low rolling on item luck,
then the doctor is in, and Faust accepts all patients.
Millia Rage.
Millia is Guilty Gear's other staple pixie character, and while Chipp is a jack of all trades, master of some, Millia is more of a jack of some trades, uncontested, wrathful god of destruction in the air. Milia's entire kit revolves around her air game. She has an excellent jump, some of the best air buttons in the game, excellent reward offset air buttons, a fast fall, a disjointed leap that beats anti-airs, is plus on block, and changes her jump trajectory,
and her unique mechanic, bonus air dash. Millia gets 2 air dashes, and her air dashes are faster than everyone else's, allowing her to dart across the screen like no other.
Trying to meet Millia in the sky is hopeless, and catching her from the ground isn't much better either. When grounded, Millia has excellent pokes such as her Far Slash, which clocks in at an absurd 9-frame startup, is nigh unwhiff punishable, reaches for round start, and grants her combos on counter hit. She has some workable grounded reset and mix-up options like Mirage and Iron Savior, but Millia generally needs to hit you in neutral to begin her offense. That being said, once she does that, she is a nightmare and a half to defend against. Millia knocks you down, sets tandem top, and then there's more of a chance you get hit by a mix-up than block it. After using tandem top, Millia can represent 4-way mix-ups with highs and lows on both sides, double cross-ups, throws, instant overheads, resets, pretty much everything you could want and more. To make it all the better, off the right hits, Millia can route her combos to knock you down again and force you to hold the same mix-up once more. If you do defend against Milia's mix-ups, it's not a punish, but a return to neutral, meaning Millia can just take back to the sky and try again for another hit. Generally, these mix-ups are extremely strong, but reward Millia with less damage on hit than your average character. But when you're putting the opponent in a 92 1/5 way mix-up, that doesn't tend to matter all too much. And to top it all off, Millia has Bad Moon, which is a risky but completely unreactable instant overhead that she can combine with 50 meter to score a combo whenever she really feels like she needs the hit. Similar to Chipp, Milia's health is low, but not quite as low. She also doesn't have any exceptional tools on defense outside of her strong jump to get out of pressure, but that alone can be enough to invalidate a number of characters' pressure strings. Her other core weakness is wall break troubles. Millia doesn't get great offense after even a super wall break, meaning if you aren't able to reset the opponent, you'll likely need to win neutral again one way or the other, which can make wall break a serious issue for her. Hitting your opponent 3 or 4 times on a mix-up only to be matched in damage by their one hit can be frustrating, but if you don't mind being out-damaged and prefer throwing your opponent straight into the blender as opposed to just nuking their life bar then and there, then take to the skies with Millia Rage.
Zato 1.
Zato 1 is a very unique character who makes use of his living shadow, Eddie, to define his toolkit. Eddie acts as an extension to Zato's kit, and is managed through a number of different techniques that can make the character initially challenging to understand, but incredibly effective once mastered. The bar next to Zato's tension gauge is the Eddie gauge. While Eddie is summoned, the bar slowly drains, and whenever Zato commands Eddie to do an attack, the bar also drains. Zato can command Eddie in 2 different ways. 1. He has special moves that activate each of Eddie's 4 attacks. However, Zato's depth truly lies in the second activation condition, Negative Edge. If Eddie is not currently performing an attack, Whenever Zato releases a button, Eddie will perform the special correspondent to that button. This means Zato can press a button earlier in the match, summon Eddie, then release the button to command Eddie without having to commit to any startup, active, or recovery from his own normal. This is incredibly strong for a multitude of reasons, and each of Eddie's attacks can be used in tandem with Zato when released with negative edge to give him a truly inescapable offense. If Eddie is forcing the opponent to block, Zato can go for multiple plus-on-block mix-ups that all score full conversions on hit thanks to Eddie being there to cover Zato while he's recovering from said mix-up. Zato also has a powerful momentum-shifting overhead in JD that can be used to force 50-50s in an Eddie block string, a command grab that gives Eddie gauge back on hit, and cross-up setups using Break the Law to keep the mental stack up. Eddie also defines Zato's neutral, as he can be manipulated in offensive and defensive ways thanks to Oppose, a wall that blocks for Zato, allowing him to attack safely from behind it. And there are multiple options to catch movement such as Frog, Pierce, and Drills. Zato's main weakness is his lacking kit without Eddie. If Eddie times out or is killed by the opponent, Zato needs to rely on mediocre frame traps with low reward on offense and a slightly small kit in neutral. Zato maintains all his normals, which are all a little worse than average, but he also keeps his unique flying mechanic. Zato lacks a double jump and instead can air dash in any direction, then after the fact, continue flying around, making it extremely hard to predict when and where he will land. This mechanic gives Zato a fighting chance in neutral without Eddie, but in the event that his fly is caught, Zato will be thrust back onto the ground without Eddie and will be forced to block the opponent's incoming offense. Zato has an excellent mash tool in 5P, but outside of that, his reward on defense is very low and his health is equally as low. Zato is also one of 3 characters to lack a reversal entirely, be it metered or meterless, so when Zato blocks, he's gonna be there until the opponent turn ends. Zato truly puts all his chips in one basket, having the best offense in the game when he takes advantage with Eddie, but ends up sorely lacking when his best buddy goes away. If the idea of a technically challenging character who loses a lot from simple mistakes, but gains unbelievably strong benefits from playing good suits you, then put on your edgy Walmart graphic tee and unleash the darkness inside of your soul.
お見事です。
Ramlethal Valentine.
Ramlethal Valentine, the emotionless Brigadier General, daughter of the Universal Will, and woman of few words, is a neutral-oriented character who is well-rounded in a majority of areas that make her a nightmare to contest on the battlefield.
Ramlethal's unique mechanic is her swords. These swords give her access to some of the best pokes in the game, high damage combo enders, and a strong projectile that pierces all others. Where this gets interesting is that when Ram sends that projectile, she loses access to the sword that was fired for a long period of time, only getting it back when breaking the wall or waiting its full recovery duration. Ram's neutral is a standout characteristic of hers. Her buttons are massive, hugely disjointed, and convert very consistently into either her flip kick or Dauro on normal hit, and her sword toss or Ondo on counter hit. Speaking of sword toss, this special move forms the crux of Ramlethal's entire offensive structure. Sword toss is a piercing projectile that can be fired at 2 differing angles that guard crushes the opponent on block, then explodes at a delay afterwards. The guard crush itself is incredibly plus, and by timing a mix-up or frame trap in between the guard crush and the explosion, Ramlethal can perform extremely dangerous offensive sequences with unmashable strike throw, a quick overhead with solo detro, cross-ups, or simple re-staggers, with the only limiting factor being the cost of 1 sword per mix-up. And while Ram relies on her swords for her most powerful offense, she can hold her own on offense without spending at both long and short range thanks to Ondo, a plus-on-block projectile that resets her turn if the opponent doesn't predict it and air dash out, and her Error Lumo Rekka series, which can be charged to ensure it is safe on block, and timed quicker to frame trap attempted mashouts. With how strong Ram's sword toss is, you're going to want to use it. but should the opponent escape your grasp after you've exhausted the resource, you're gonna struggle. Ram's toolkit is exceptionally lacking without swords, basically having no options to combo without a counter hit, and an unreliable sweep that makes scoring knockdowns tricky. Not to mention, Ramlethal's otherwise great damage takes a huge hit as well. Alongside her countless strengths with swords in hand, Ramlethal is also an aerial ace. Her JH stands out as one of the game's most oppressive air buttons, clean beating almost every anti-air in the game, and her sword swipes do the exact same while resulting in a hard knockdown. To top it off, Flip Kick allows her to delay and reposition her falling trajectory to make her even harder to anti-air. And while Ramlethal's defense isn't amazing, it certainly isn't terrible thanks to Mortabato, which starts up as fast as reversals can, making it hard to safe jump, has excellent range, and does a huge chunk of damage to boot. Ram has some truly oppressive attributes, such as some of the best buttons in the game, great damage off of them, great offense, and great combo routing, but relies on her swords to achieve all of these feats. If you don't mind the cost-benefit analysis regarding this unique mechanic, but do like having a kit that in the right conditions feels completely unstoppable, Ramlethal Valentine won't be your Valentine. She's still trying to figure out all those kinds of emotions, but she's at least willing to try.
意味はあったよ。でもわからないから続ける。レオが欲しがりそうだ。
重い攻めには置いて、悪い攻めにも置いて。
Leo is the game's third character that can be defined as a Shoto, and where Soul is about damage and Kai is about neutral, Leo sits on a balance of powerful mix-ups combined with excellent defense. You see, while the king may seem to be violent and aggressive on the outside, he secretly has a more gentle side. A side that's okay with blocking a few attacks. Then, of course, fiercely counterattacking with some of the best defensive options in the game. Leo's Flash Kick is a very powerful reversal, being immune to cross-ups and having great range for a move of this type. This is insanely strong, and it's not even the end of it. Leo also has a frame 5 throw invulnerable 2D that kills you on counter hit that he can use to hard call out anyone trying to throw him. And he gets great reward off of his mashes thanks to the ability to combo into back turn using the H version of Eisenstrom, which lacks frame 1 invuln, but grants him a knockdown suitable for a transition into stance. Leo's neutral isn't half bad either. Leo has a unique step dash as opposed to a run that lets him get far dash momentum off normals such as his 5k, and his 5H is a powerful long-range tool that crushes 6Ps. He has a strong fireball for counter-poking that, while usually minus, has multiple hits, meaning it will blow through lower priority projectiles and continue traveling. His long-range pokes have somewhat high recovery, but both his Far Slash and 5H has a unique stance transferable to after using them that auto-guards all mids while allowing him to move slowly, and then pressing the opposite button will perform a powerful armored counterattack that's great for calling out opponents trying to whiff punish these normals. Leo can effectively combo off these mid-range pokes through use of H Eisensturm for his K normals and Turbulence for his Slash normals, leading into his unique mechanic, back turn stance. Leo's offense in and outside of back turn are very different, but generally you'd much rather be in back turn if your opponent is defending. Outside of it, Leo has the unique ability to reverse beat his Slash normals, which gives him serviceable offense, but he can be prone to getting FD'd out of range while doing so, and has to commit to slow reset tools like 6H or Zwite to stop this. Zwite is his only real mix-up option outside of back turn that isn't a normal throw or reset, but it adds enough mental stack to be important. Zwite is a plus on block cross-up that leaves Leo in back turn that can only be beaten by throwing it as Leo runs through you. While reactable on its own, once mixed in with Leo's other offensive options, it can be a true nightmare to defend against. If and when Leo is able to get into back turn, his offense evolves into something nightmarish. Leo gains access to fast lows, overheads, cross-ups, command throws, guard crushes, and every other special move he could use outside of stance to make for a truly challenging to block offense. One problem. When Leo is in back turn, he cannot block. This means Leo must carefully consider when to switch to back turn, as if the opponent escapes his pressure, it's easy to force him out by hitting him. However, the strength of back turn in the right situation is more than enough to warrant frequent use of the stance. It is his primary win condition, after all. All of these mix-ups can be made plus on block with a stance cancel as well, which allows him to safely transition into standard pressure if the opponent does block him out. While Leo does have to rely on strike throw without stance, his throw is maybe the strongest throw in the entire game thanks to it automatically transitioning Leo into his back turn, which we've already established is super important. Leo's primary weakness might be a surprise given his visual design and characterization, but his damage off of these mix-ups is actually quite low. Granted, it's very easy for Leo to hit you over and over again, but these conversions don't do a lot of damage unless he cashes out on meter and ends the combo without back turn Ogi, which sacrifices the chance of losing the mix-up situation anymore. Additionally, once Leo breaks the wall, he can't go back into stance without taking a risk. Overall, Leo is an extremely powerful all-rounder who should be near the top of any player's list if they want to play a character who excels in a multitude of situations, and is extremely tricky to put in an uncomfortable situation.
貴様の敗因は俺と戦ったこと不愉快だ。それ以上に残念だがな。
Nagoriyuki is an absolute powerhouse of a character who is more than happy to decimate the opponent's life bar for a single mistake, and has the tools to do so off of even the most minuscule of mistakes. When Nagoriyuki's unique resource, the blood meter, is low, he plays practically in creative mode. Any hit can become a full corner carry 60% damage starter. He can whiff punish you from full screen, has the fastest dash in the game, a powerful plus on block projectile that destroys all other projectiles,
50-50 mix-ups off any block string, an extremely effective frame trap tool that kills you on hit, $10 million straight to your bank account, a kiss on the forehead, and a story time before bed. You get the idea.
However, all of these tie to his core mechanic, blood management. Using these special moves will raise Nagoriyuki's blood meter, which is sectioned off into 3 clear divisions. Each division up, a few things change about Nagoriyuki. 1. His buttons get bigger and faster. This is entirely positive, making his pokes more powerful the higher he is on blood. 2. He begins to take more damage. This is negative for obvious reasons. 3. The meter is higher. You should already know this if you know addition, but the real thing you need to know is what happens when he maxes out his blood gauge. This is what that looks like. Playing Nagoriyuki is about always making sure you are committing the right amount of resources at the right times to avoid entering Blood Rage and losing the round. He has the strongest specials in the game by far, but use them too frequently and he will pay for his hubris. Nagoriyuki can only restore blood in 2 ways, waiting over time and landing sword normals. The automatic restoration takes a long time and is unreliable in a real match, so you really want to try to force your opponent to deal with Nagoriyuki's sword normals, which are any normal that involves his giant Odachi. Interestingly, his Close Slash, which uses one of his Daisho swords, does not restore blood.
The heavier the normal, the more blood he restores, but he can't special cancel his H attacks, so you need to be cautious.
The minigame of blood management allows for a very unique style select that isn't seen with many other characters. Nago can spend blood in many different ways, be it for powerful frame traps on offense, high damage neutral skips at the mid-range, or tricky movement to keep the opponent guessing, but he can only use so much before having to rely on his kit without use of special moves. This is Nagoriyuki's main struggle. The opponent can somewhat control Nago's blood flow through use of defensive mechanics like Burst or YRC, and if he is fighting a character such as Axl or Jacko that he really doesn't want to be at high blood against, this can be a serious problem. Just wait for him to use the blood, push him away, and win the round.
Nago can play around this through use of his command grab Blood-Sucking Universe, which fully restores his blood gauge, meaning even characters who want to push him away have to commit to dealing with his offense due to the risk of the command grab negating their efforts towards forcing him to high blood.
All of this is not to imply that Nago is bad at high blood. His buttons are massive and very hard to contest, with his 2S being one of the best mid-range pokes in the game, his 2H acting as a massive anti-air/mid-range poke, and his 4/ and 5H being powerful long-range checking tools. Additionally, Nagoriyuki has special Rekka follow-ups to his Far Slash, allowing him to restore extra blood on connect or apply offensive pressure through use of Fukyo resets or frame traps. Nago also has exceptional defense despite the lack of any uniquely defining defensive tools thanks to his powerful conversions with blood, solid A.B.A in 5p, 2p, 5k, and 2k, and high health. In conclusion, Nagoriyuki is a heavily adaptive character who can spend his blood resource to dominate in just about any scenario, but must be careful about when and where he chooses to do so. Fail to take this into account, and Nagoriyuki won't be the only one raging as you lose the round off of such a foolish mistake.
切る価値もない
Giovanna doesn't have the time to think about things like set play, neutral, and defense, and prefers to take a more direct route in her fighting style. Gio is a simple character who is built on a foundation of incredibly powerful fundamental strengths that make her a nightmare to challenge in the hands of a skilled player. The first thing you'll notice with Giovanna is her insane dash speed. With one dash, Gio can end up traveling 3/4 of the screen, letting herself incredibly well to whiff punishing, and thanks to her fast normals, she is almost certainly the best at doing so in the entire game.
This aptitude gets even stronger when factoring in her unique mechanic, Possession. The more meter Giovanna has, the more possessed by her ghost dog, Ray, she becomes. This makes Gio's dash travel even faster and farther than before, and allows her to do chip damage on block with her normal attacks. This ensures that if she's late on a whiff punish, she's still guaranteed a chunk of damage alongside her normal offensive pressure.
Her air dash is also exceptionally fast, and she has a strong plus-on-block anti-fireball tool in Travau, as well as a slow but extremely disjointed and high-reward 2D. All of this means Giovanna's neutral is incredibly powerful in the hands of a player who knows how to force the opponent to whiff attacks and then use those openings to score their hits. She can struggle if you have trouble punishing these situations, as she lacks strong poking normals and her mobility can be somewhat linear at times, meaning if you approach without strategy, you are likely to be outranged and outpoked. On offense, Gio has a set of incredibly effective fundamental tools to keep you scared. Her close slash is very plus, her dash is incredibly fast, lending her well to hitting you with a quick dash throw, and her 2S is a multi-hitting low that will catch opponents trying to fuzzy tech or jump by standing up in the middle of a block string. Gio also has strong counter hit damage with meter, and her meterless damage is quite impressive as well. Travau serves an important role here as a hard-to-check block string reset, which is complemented by her Sepultura, a safe block string ender and powerful frame trap tool that adds a strong, and most importantly, riskless final step to her offense. She also has Sol Puente, a tricky-to-react-to cross-up special that has low reward on hit, but thanks to RC, can threaten high damage with the use of meter. Speaking of meter, Giovanna gets an answer to her semi-linear mobility with 50 bar, as her Tempestad Overdrive is a plus-on-block, high-damaging dive kick that can check anyone trying to anti-air a regular jump-in, allowing her to close the gap on characters who can stuff her approaches well and inflict some serious damage while doing so. Gio also has Sol Nascente, which is effectively a 6P on steroids. It doesn't get full invuln like an average DP, but it gets its upper body invuln faster than any other anti-air and nets insane reward on counter hit. This can be used both as an anti-air and mid-crushing counterpoke in neutral.
Giovanna also has the ability to power up any of the aforementioned special moves with the use of Xavi, a command dash cancelable into every one of her specials. This upgrades them and lets her use more effective versions of her already powerful tools. While Gio has to deal with weaknesses such as short range and lack of mix-ups, this is a complete non-issue thanks to her overwhelming neutral strength due to her speed and her overwhelming offensive presence due to her safe frame traps and resets. If you want to play a character with an extremely consistent game plan built on core principles that no bad matchup can take away from you, Giovanna may just be the character for you.
Anji Mito.
Anji Mito is a fluid fighter who uses his wits and guile to outsmart the opponents through use of high-risk, high-reward reads, then uses his other assets to pummel your life bar and seriously make you regret getting outsmarted. Anji's kit is filled to the brim with tools that grant him very high reward when used successfully, but a very consistent theme is that all of these tools put Anji at immense risk himself. In neutral, Anji has quick and serviceable pokes in Far Slash and 2S, as well as some longer pokes in 5H and Fujin, but all of these pokes have substantial whip recovery.
Anji's main neutral tool and unique mechanic is Auto Guard. This is a 10-frame counter that sees Anji spin through all attacks during its active frames, low, mid, or high. On a successful parry, Anji is put into a little bit of recovery while the opponent is left to whip their attack, allowing Anji to get a close range punish depending on the recovery the opponent has left in their attack. This parry can net incredibly strong reward on a high recovery attack like a Far Slash or 5H, but it can be weak against smaller buttons or projectile attacks, as if the opponent isn't locked into any recovery, they actually end up being plus after Anji recovers. Anji's answer? Put the fish on it. After any guard point, Anji can cancel into the fish, which is an incredibly quick, plus on block, guard crush, fully invulnerable DP that hard knockdowns on hit. Yeah. If Mei didn't convince you that Sea Life is the most powerful life in Guilty Gear, surely you're convinced now. So what's stopping the opponent from simply waiting out every spin they see?
Anji can actually spin before a number of different special moves by holding the attack button after the motion. Holding quarter circle forward and kick does a prolonged spin, quarter circle forward and slash spins into Ko, a high damage anti-air attack, and quarter circle forward into heavy slash spins into Fujin, a high damage frame trap slash Rekka combo move with powerful follow-ups. Each of these moves can also be used individually without the spin, but when held for their full duration, gain more powerful properties like higher damage, better combos on connect, and higher block stun. Fujin is a very powerful and polarizing tool that defines Anji as a character almost as much as spin does. This move frame traps from almost any of Anji's buttons, has great forward momentum, and follow-ups that can be performed to mix up the opponent on block. After pressing Fujin, press any of the 4 main buttons for a follow-up. P is a fan toss that can be jumped but grants Anji plus frames, which can be used to continue his offense.
K is a hop that is best used to reposition after missing a Fujin, but can be used to chase down a backdash or represent a throw.
S is a low that frame traps anyone mashing or trying to jump a different follow-up, and H is an overhead to catch people trying to block the low.
Additionally, if Anji charges spin for its full duration, he's allowed to special cancel the attack, letting him loop Fujin pressure or parry incoming counterattacks. And during Fujin's startup, he can cancel into any of its follow-ups early for an added boost of momentum at the cost of Fujin's strike never activating. Fujin is RPS, meaning the opponent has just as good a chance to escape it as you do of hitting them, but Anji's high health and damage keep the odds in his favor in situations like these. Additionally, Anji has a good choice of high damage frame traps in his normal block strings that make it extremely hard for the opponent to find an escape, such as 2S, 5H, 6H, and the aforementioned Fujin. Anji also has the tools to survive on defense despite lacking a traditional reversal of any kind. His 2P is among the strongest in the game, giving him an incredibly high-range mash-out option that combos into his 6H, allowing him to shift momentum very easily, and with 50 tension, he gains access to Kancho Fugetsu, a counter super that parries the opponent's strike and deals large damage. After a knockdown, Anji can set up simple set play with Shitsui, letting him build risk safely and start a block string with a little more on the line for the opponent, or try to sneak in a challenging to spot and high-reward mix-up. If tricking your opponent into making mistakes and dancing through their every attack before delivering devastating counterattacks sounds your style, you may want to take the stage with Anji Mito. Ino, the hard rock witch, is here to serenade you with her sweet electric guitar, then dominate you with her powerful looping mix-ups.
The first thing you'll notice with Ino is that her movement is radically different from other characters. Instead of a ground dash, she has a hover dash, which puts her into the air slightly, and instead of an air dash, she slowly glides downwards. This hover dash allows her to use her air attacks lower to the ground than any character in the game. This is Ino's core principle upon which her entire game plan is based off of. Starting with neutral, the hover dash will go over some mids and all lows, meaning the opponent is restricted in what attacks they can use to check Ino's approach. Additionally, she has strong low profile in 2S and Stroke the Big Tree, making it feel very threatening for the opponent to attack into her. If they are poking with safe mids, she has strong counter pokes in 2H and 5H. A long range check on zoners with Chemical Love, a controllable fireball that can chase the opponent down and force them to block, and a set of dive kicks that she can use to further mix up her mobility. Ino can struggle with powerful disjoints that cover both air and ground approaches, such as Solar Maze 2S, as her short range makes it difficult to counterpoke, but she can use standard Whiff Punish to deal with these tricky attacks. On offense, Ino's hover dash becomes even scarier. Due to her ability to throw out aerial attacks quick and low to the ground, Ino can launch high-low mix-ups like nobody's business. Will she land into a low or hover into an overhead? It's almost impossible to know. And if you are defending against the flight on time, Ino has stalling options such as her JD or a simple empty jump low to throw off fuzzy timings and make even the most practiced opponents drop their guard. With 50 tension, Ino gains access to a plus on block guard crush to safely reset a block string, and a high damage command grab that makes her mix-up game all the more scary. If Ino is blocked to a range where her mix-ups are too far to reach, she can force the opponent to respect a couple final options before being truly finished. S-Stroke the Big Tree can be used to frame trap an opponent trying to escape after blocking Ino, and Chemical Love can catch backdashes and jump attempts as well. Threatening delayed cancels into these lets her steal back her turn by simply restarting block strings with another hover, which can be tricky to defend against if layered properly. Additionally, Ino can go all in on Mad Love Agitato, a powerful guard crush that resets any block string with plus frames and looks identical to her hover dash, but is mashable, making it a risky yet extremely rewarding option to keep her offense rocking. Ino's defense is relatively standard, but she has strong escape options if the opponent leaves a gap in their offense. Stroke the Big Tree gains its low profile very quickly, meaning it can duck under mids and highs to escape pressure, and Ino can also use her dive kicks to fly out of the corner if she gets a jump opportunity. Ino may be the very culmination of a rushdown character, despite her unorthodox movement. She has short range, but the tools to check defensive play, and takes pleasure in crushing you into a pulp with her looping high-low mix-ups. If you take pleasure in inflicting painful mix-ups on your opponent, and don't mind occasionally being restricted in terms of neutral options, Ino is more than happy to make you her faithful servant.
もっと満足させて。
Goldlewis is a lot of things. He's the Secretary of Defense for the United States of America. He's an alien denier, despite owning an alien himself. He's a cryptid believer, and most importantly, he's a big, big man, and he does big, big damage. Goldlewis is a character hyper-focused on offense. His damage numbers are insane. He deals heavy damage to you even on block. He brings an arsenal of tools to steal the neutral and skip right to his offense. And even if his mobility may be lacking, he is a big guy after all, he is more than gutsy enough to make up for it. Goldlewis's defining special move is Behemoth Typhoon. A half circle in any direction, anyone at all, will command Goldlewis to swing his heavy coffin in the direction you input, which launches a high-damaging, guard-crushing, soul-destroying slam that will be sure to beat your opponent into submission. Each BT has different properties and different uses, so let's quickly go through them all. 4-2-6 is a powerful forward blow that can bounce opponents off walls and grants plus frames. 6-2-4 is a frame trapping slam that is minus on block but has no escape point if used in a block string. 2-6-8 is very similar but plus, and with shorter range and occasionally a small gap. 862 is a short-range plus-on-block overhead. 486 is a slow, long-range plus-on-block overhead. 684 is used to convert from pokes into hard knockdown to start Goldlewis's offense. 842 is a low that is plus-on-block, and 248 is a short-range low that will side-switch the opponent. Switching up your BTs to create plus frames, deal chip damage, and frame trap the opponent is the core of Goldlewis's offense, and mixed together with his normal attacks such as Far Slash and 5K that will keep the opponent in check, Goldlewis may very well be the scariest opponent to block in the game. Goldlewis's neutral is simple yet effective. He has a low crush at 5K, a long-range plus-on-block 2P for checking dashes and non-disjointed pokes, a good range Far Slash, and some high-profile options thanks to his incredibly short jump height such as JD. Goldlewis's mobility is his true weakness. His dash is very slow, his jump startup is slowest in the game, he can't double jump, his air dash is slow, and his jump is very low to the ground. The only real benefit here is that his low jump lets him use air attacks low to the ground to make his offense and neutral scarier, but otherwise this can be a serious trouble for Goldlewis, especially on defense. Goldlewis's official title is the Secretary of Absolute Defense, but he might as well be called the Secretary of Absolutely No Defense, as his defensive options are quite poor, with jumping out of pressure as almost a complete non-option, and a decent but not character-defining 5-frame, a slow dash and slow normals. Goldlewis has one of the worst disadvantage states in the game, made better only by his high health.
Goldlewis's unique mechanic further emphasizes his no-nonsense, straight-to-offense playstyle, that being his security gauge. At high-level security, Goldlewis's special moves get powered up. Skyfish is a long-range minigun shot that at higher security levels has more shots and knocks the opponent down, which is good for anti-zoning and stopping setup characters. Thunderbird is an abomination. This move is insane. Remember Potemkin's Gigantic High Super? This is that, but on a cooldown instead of costing meter. If Goldlewis just follows the drone across the screen, he is almost guaranteed to win neutral barring specific character interactions and extremely risky pokes into the drone to hit Goldlewis and destroy it. Options like these allow Goldlewis to consistently take his turn on offense despite his low mobility, and if he can get in just once or twice, he has everything he needs to win the round from that alone. Even better is that if Goldlewis manages to make his way in without these two specials, he can instead spend his security on Behemoth Typhoon to allow him to cancel straight from one into another, turning his offense from oppressive to inescapable, and his damage from deadly to downright demonic.
If you wish to show your opponent some good old Southern hospitality, and don't mind not being as quick as you used to be in the good old days, settle down with Goldlewis Dickinson, the Secretary of an absolutely crushing offense.
Piping hot, popping like popcorn. Can you hear the bells ding dong? This is it. This is it.
Zato Valentine is the sweets-loving girlfriend of Soul Badguy, but she's just as much of a nightmare on the battlefield as he is. Jako fights by controlling her servants, small winged creatures that she can place, move around the screen, and command through use of her toolkit of very simple yet incredibly adaptable moves. Let's first focus on the cornerstone of her toolkit, her minions. Minions are tied to the minion gauge. Jako needs to spend 1 bar of her gauge to summon a minion, which sounds simple as there's 3 chunks, but it's a little more complicated under the hood. You see, there are 2 colors of the minion gauge, yellow and gray. You need yellow gauge to summon a minion, and gray gauge can be used to command a minion. However, yellow gauge holds priority over gray gauge, meaning that if you have a full bar of yellow gauge, you can still command a minion, but it will take 1 chunk of both yellow and the gray gauge underneath it, whereas summoning a minion will leave the gray gauge beneath the yellow after doing so. Jako tends to need to be able to gain space to set up her minions, as doing so in a block string or in neutral is disadvantageous, and after doing so she needs to take even more time to get said minion into a good spot before carrying it or launching it. Luckily, Jako has extremely potent close-range pokes such as her 2K, which is 6 frames, combos into hard knockdown consistently, has low profile, and is exceptionally hard to whiff punish. Jako also has good tools to call out backdashes or people outspacing outside of her 2K, thanks to her momentum-shifting normals such as 2D and 5H. If Jako wants to retreat, she can send an air fireball using her JD that has an incredible angle and usually lets Jako gain enough plus frames to start a block string or set up a minion. Holding down the punch button after summoning a minion lets her hold on to the minion and reposition before dropping it with dust or throwing it. Doing the motion normally lets her set it down. After getting the minion in position, Jako has to hit it with her normals to send it soaring through the air and hopefully at the opponent. Each of her different normals has a different trajectory she can send the minion on, such as a fast forward kick that destroys projectiles, an arcing bounce that covers the ground below her, an anti-air cannon that sends the minion into the stratosphere, and other angles that can be used to make her neutral very tricky. When Jako gets a minion where she wants it, she has a few things she can do with it. Well, two. You don't want to recall them because they get recalled, and you don't want to use this one. Just trust me, it's bad. Maybe worst move in the game bad. Don't use it. Anyways, Jako has two things she can do to a minion once it's out: attack and defend. Attack command is a quick lollipop strike performed by the minion in the direction of the opponent that will launch for a combo on hit and leaves Jako at a staggering plus 15 on block. This command is the cornerstone of Jako's offensive capabilities. Being able to use minions to acquire plus frames on command lets Jako set up for strike throw mix-ups, overheads, and more advanced setups that would usually take too much time to work. Jako can also use the bounce of the servants to acquire these plus frames without having to spend meter upon doing so, making her pressure extremely adaptable depending on the status of your minion gauge. All of this makes her offense extremely potent, but Jako also builds meter quickly and can use it on the Cheer Servant on H, an incredibly powerful super that lets Jako perform a true block string to crank the opponent's risk and go for a mix-up if she has a minion out. All in all, with minions, Jako's offense is very powerful, but without them, she struggles to take her turn. Usually Jako needs a hit to set a minion, and with an incredibly simple set of frame traps that all end extremely minus on block, Jako will usually need to try to get away with setting a minion in a block string or pulling one and running away in order to take her turn when making the opponent block. Her other command has a more defensive use. Defend command puts up a shield for a short duration that will parry incoming attacks and do a little bit of chip damage to boot. This is good for stopping an opponent trying to clear out the minions on the screen or deflect projectiles coming at Jako and her minions. It is of utmost importance to use these tools properly in neutral, as if an attack connects with Jako, block, or hit, all minions despawn, meaning she really needs to stay on top of making sure the screen is too threatening for the opponent to swing in, or she can come toppling down like a house of cards. If you don't mind running into a couple challenging matchups every now and then, Jako's toolkit is incredibly rewarding to learn, as her minions make her incredibly comfortable playing anywhere on the screen, giving her a flowing gameplay that is unlike any other character in the game. If this sounds appealing to you, swear your allegiance to the minion army, and they will serve you for eternity.
There's no way you'll believe me when I say this, but I'm really hoping you guys win. Because I'd like to see you again.
I forgot about it in 2 seconds. That's about it.
Happy Chaos, the gunslinging broken messiah,
is a resource character who has to manage 2 resources, his bullets and his concentration, in exchange for one of the absolute most powerful tools in all of fighting games. Chaos's core mechanic is his gun. Happy Chaos entirely lacks the heavy slash button, and upon pressing it, he will pull out his pistol. This spawns a reticle on the screen that will slowly try to track the opponent as they move across the screen. Pressing the H button again while this is happening shoots them, which spawns an instantaneous hitbox that will damage them through anything in the game, including walls that normally stop projectiles or even normal hitboxes. Keeping the gun out costs concentration, and every shot spends a chunk of concentration as well as a bullet, of which he can store 6. Because of this, keeping on top of resource management is key for Happy Chaos. Luckily, he has the tools and then some to keep his economy high. His steady aim special move focuses in his gunshot and lets him charge up an undodgeable shot with immense plus frames, allowing him to reload after each shot and keep his bullets up while walking the opponent in place. Or he can use these plus frames to run in and take his turn. Happy Chaos can also use Curse, a very powerful projectile that, again, can't be deflected, to make his reticle focus stronger. And yes, this includes during steady aim. If Happy Chaos runs low on concentration, he'll need to use his Focus special, which will recover some concentration and reduce the amount he spends per shot for a short duration. He usually needs a full targeted steady shot or a hit to do this, outside of spending another resource like Clone, which steals his HP to put a single hit wall in front of the opponent that is extremely risky to try to attack. All of this might paint the picture to you that Happy Chaos is a zoner who wants to shoot from afar, And while he can zone, especially to close out a round with a chip damage kill, his resources are so insanely powerful on offense, it's a waste to use them just to keep playing keep away. Happy Chaos's reticle always targets when the opponent is in block or hit stun, making it an on-demand plus frame button with absolutely zero startup, active, or recovery for Chaos. This means each bullet can be used for a completely safe and even plus on block mix-up, keep a block string going and force the opponent to respect stuff that would otherwise be fake. Happy Chaos's dust attack is very short range, but thanks to Gunshot, it's one of the scariest dusts in the game due to his ability to get a full combo off of it, and his roll special move is a 16, you heard me right, 16 frame cross-up that combos into a hard knockdown for him to get his bullets back on hit, is safe on block, and can only be countered by committing to a throw in the middle of Happy Chaos's offense. Chaos probably has the best conversions in the game. Again, thanks to the gun, he can fire a shot after landing something small like a 2P, and then pick up into a combo reminiscent of a different character's counter hit combo. Chaos can easily corner to corner you with a single light hit provided he has the resources, and his smaller combos can go resource neutral as well, making him absolutely terrifying to get hit by, made even worse by his positive bonus state being extremely threatening thanks to it letting him RC to gain more resources on block more often than continue pressure. Both of Chaos's supers also allow him to fix management mistakes, as his Deus Ex Machina super reloads all his bullets, and his super focus not only leaves him plus on activation when cancelled from a normal, but fills up his focus bar and buffs his focus spending as well. So far, Chaos is a menace on offense and has the ability to turn any hit or block into a huge opportunity, so naturally his pokes should be on the weaker side, right? Nope. Happy Chaos has some of the best normals in the game, sporting a best-in-class 2K with a very fast, long, and low profile. A powerful and hard-to-whiff punish 2S, a strong tool to catch backdash such as Success, and a strong and reliable neutral check in Far Slash. All of these pokes are strong on their own, but combined with each other, the ability to convert every single one of them into a wall break or knockdown anywhere on the screen, powerful disengagement tools like Curse, and a quick reaction check for plus frames by using steady aim, Happy Chaos truly has some of the most fearsome neutral in the game. On defense is where Chaos is the most threatened. Happy Chaos lacks an invincible reversal entirely, and while his YRC affords him some of the strongest momentum shifting, thanks to it allowing him to get his full offensive potential without any setup, the opponent could look out for YRC and either bait it or burst Happy Chaos once he takes out the gun to start his pressure, as he cannot block while holding the gun out. Happy Chaos is truly a character like no other. While he can be challenging to play and punishing to make mistakes as, he excels at almost everything he does, and his bullet mechanic allows him to have immensely powerful, creative, and adaptive gameplay that can't be rivaled by any other character. If you don't mind having to focus up every now and then in order to play optimally, and love riddling your opponent with bullet after bullet, take a ride with Happy Chaos.
花がないんだよな。
I've wandered around for 20 years. What's one more trip? You're the only person who could ever talk me out of my revenge. But this time, you know my answer.
お頼み申す。お頼み申す。卒じながら冥府はいずこ。下道が笑えば神がなり。所業に拉致なりつかかあれば魔道の始末を請け負い。その手はピローの三品と指導死に花無謀の
Baiken is an unfaltering samurai warrior driven by anger and revenge, and her playstyle certainly suits these character traits. Baiken is a character defined by simple yet incredibly effective options like easy looping mix-ups, a matchup-defining parry, great mid-range normals, and high-damaging options from her larger hits. Baiken's round start is immensely powerful thanks to her Far Slash, which is likely the best round start in the game due to its 9-frame startup, it reaching from round start, being incredibly challenging to whiff punish, and allowing her to combo on counter hit into the start of her looping mix-up game. When Baiken lands a hit such as this, she's afforded the ability to start with a simple high-low by IADing and pressing an air normal into either her air stalling special move Yozansen, or simply landing and doing a low. After this, she can apply even more threatening offense through use of high damage Gatwings with multiple frame trap opportunities, thanks to attacks like her 6K, Tatami Gaish, and H Kabari. Baiken also has a very powerful reset in S Kabari, which pulls the opponent closer to her, leaves her at +2 on block, and most importantly, tethers the opponent. Baiken's tether mechanic is a cornerstone of her offense and makes it so opponents can't escape arm's reach of Baiken, letting her extend block strings for longer, perform combos that would otherwise be impossible, and on knockdown perform looping 4-way mix that is completely safe on block and comboable on hit. Baiken's offense extends even further when you consider how effective her strike throw is due to her throw tethering the opponent on connect and immediately allowing her to start her looping mix. And if that wasn't strong enough, Baiken also has instant overhead low 50/50s off any jump cancelable normal thanks to TK Yozansa, an instantaneous overhead that, while punishable on block, forces the opponent to guess as there is absolutely no window to react at all. And if Baiken has 50 meter, she's plus after the mix-up is blocked and gets a full combo on hit. Baiken can absolutely maul you on offense, but returning to neutral certainly isn't the end of the world for her. While it's true that Baiken has short-range pokes and very low mobility, she also has some of the best air normals in the game thanks to her JS being incredibly quick and large, JH crushing 6Ps, and all of these being safe on block from any height thanks to the ability to cancel into Yozansen to keep herself from being throw punished, and usually plus on block to boot.
Baiken's close-range pokes such as her jab, far slash, and 2S are all incredible normals, with the caveat that without meter or a counter hit, she's unlikely to get a combo from them at max range. Baiken has slower but serviceable tools to use from a range in neutrals, such as the incredibly disjointed H Kabari, which on block can let Baiken force a guess between a frame-trapping follow-up or simply stealing her turn and starting offense. Baiken also has a powerful low-profile 2H that is great at catching backdashes and low-profiling certain mid-attacks. However, both of these tools have exceptionally high whiff recovery, so it's important not to use them too often. That being said, if you do use them too often and get punished, Baiken has some of the best defensive options in the entire game. Baiken has a fully comboable 4-frame that lets her get soft knockdowns on normal hit, noticeably higher health than all other lightweight characters, a versatile reversal super, and the character-defining parry, Hiragi. Hiragi is a counter with frame 1 activation and 7 frames of parry window that deals massive damage on connect as well as gives Baiken Oki, letting her start her incredibly potent offense, on top of dealing a huge chunk of damage to the enemy's life bar. This alone makes Hiragi one of the strongest defensive options the game has to offer, but here's the real kicker. Baiken is allowed to input Hiragi while already blocking. By canceling her blocking frames into Hiragi, Baiken can interrupt completely unmashable, undPable offensive sequences that absolutely no other character can escape. And while she only gets a half connect, deflecting the opponent's strike instead of throwing it, this gives her more than enough advantage to apply her tether and ready her blade. Baiken struggles with defensive play more than the average character due to her dash speed being second slowest in the game, Goldlewis being the only character slower, and her pokes being noticeably short range compared to other normals. But her offensive and defensive traits are so powerful that Baiken doesn't even need to be able to win neutral most games in order to start her offense thanks to her uncanny ability to win just from blocking. If you want to put fear into your opponent's heart on both your offense and their offense, enjoy frustrating them with high damage options and looping mix-ups, and don't mind having to play a slower paced neutral, embody your anger and slash through the competition with Baiken.
仇討ち是なし阿鼻に天のホース聖聖代お上のホース何とぞよしなに閻魔何とぞよしなに閻魔殿
ぐらいは捨てろ。自信は捨てるな。
The elegant Grim Reaper Testament joins Guilty Gear Strive's roster as the final character in Season Pass 1, and brings with them a powerful assortment of dominating neutral tools that can be used to keep the opponent slamming their head into a brick wall of projectiles, normals, safe mix-ups, and more. Testament's neutral is defined by access to a lot of screen states thanks to how their projectiles work. Usually Testament needs to follow a semi-rhythmic pattern in order to start the flow of their neutral after escaping round start. Round start itself isn't an issue thanks to strong tools such as 2K, Far Slash, 2S, and 5K,
and after gaining some space or making the opponent block, Testament can use their Grave Reaper special move to put a strong projectile on the screen. This projectile can be charged to make it last longer on the screen, as well as be angled upwards to catch anyone trying to jump in at Testament, and it has quite low recovery for a projectile, being 100% unpunishable if blocked from a close range. This fireball also has a swinging attack before it that destroys other projectiles, lending Testament well to counter zone. It can also be used in the air and is more advantageous when used this way, encouraging Testament to mix up fireball options while zoning. After Grave Reaper spawns and disappears, one of Testament's succubi will spawn and linger where it left. This succubus can be used in two ways. Normally, Testament will want to send Unholy Diver, which will automatically target the succubus and send Testament's Crow Familiar to its location. This is a single hit, advantageous on block projectile that puts the opponent into the Stain state on hit or block, which is Testament's big win condition. When the opponent is stained, they will stay that way until a certain amount of time has passed or Testament gets hit. And if Testament hits the opponent with any move other than their projectiles, the Stain will activate a powerful hitbox that makes whatever was just used plus on block and comboable on hit. This turns Testament's already daunting neutral into a minefield where any single hit can lead to a full combo and knockdown no matter what button was used to get there. And while activating Stain on block isn't as powerful, Testament has simple yet safe and effective pressure to make it a situation worth avoiding. On offense, Testament has a few tricks up their sleeve they can use to keep the opponent guessing. H Grave Reaper is plus on block, and so is a charged S Grave Reaper, and both of these options can be easily stringed into from Testament's 2H, a vacuuming low with high block stun. This can loop for as long as you choose to remain passive, as Testament can then use Grave Reaper to call Unholy Diver, activate the Stain, set the projectile back up, and start again. In order for the opponent to escape, they must either FD Testament out and escape by ground or air, or directly challenge gaps in this pressure with 6P. This is Testament's main difficulty on offense, as to reloop this offense they need to press buttons that can be 6P'd or leave considerably large mashable gaps. But this is simply RPS that the opponent, and by extension Testament themselves, needs to respect. Testament's offense is a bit stronger after a knockdown, as they can start with an IAD mix-up that forces the opponent to guess high or low and is comboable on hit and safe on block. When forcing block strikes from a mid to long range, Testament can use Arbiter Sign to check dashes as well as mix up a stationary opponent thanks to the ability to call either a low or overhead version of this move. But this cannot be used in up-close offense frequently due to the fact that it has both a minimum and maximum range that it must be used inside to hit the opponent. Back to neutral, when they're on the back foot, Testament has a number of strong tools they can use to shift the tides. The second thing they can do with the succubi on screen is a quick teleport to its location that can get Testament out of a sticky situation and can also be feinted to confuse the opponent. Testament also has one of the strongest 6Ps in the game to counter an opponent who gets too aggressive in the air, and Testament themselves has some incredibly powerful air options thanks to the ability to use a majority of their specials in the air, as well as having a powerful JH that beats 6Ps similar to Baiken's JH, and a JK with a strong cross-up hitbox best used for IADing over somebody's head and safely escaping out of the corner or similarly scary screen space. Testament's defense is nothing to write home about. They have a standard 5-frame, no meterless reversal, and a slow metered reversal that pretty much requires the use of the super PRC tech to be effective thanks to its ability to be safe jumped by almost every character in the roster. Their only other weakness is a lower than average mobility and no movement oriented special moves to speak of, but their dominant neutral moves is more than enough to make this hardly noticeable. If you don't mind having to rely on playing neutral for 99% of the game, but really enjoy making the opponent frustrated while losing said neutral over and over again, then you and Testament might get along quite well.
Mankind knew that they cannot change society, so instead of reflecting on themselves, they blamed the Evidence for hell.
どんなお客さんも大歓迎です。撮影は禁止です。サインでいいですか？
Bridget is a mischievous fighter who sports one of, if not the most well-rounded kit in the game, with incredibly strong neutral, mobility, offense, defense, mix-ups, combos, tricks, and more. Round start is no problem at all for Bridget, with pokes like 2S to catch normal round starts and strong counter pokes like 2P to keep the opponent from trying to either whiff punish 2S or approach and use a closer range normal of their own. When Bridget makes the opponent block or escapes round start, she can set up her yo-yo projectile, which is the most important tool in Bridget's arsenal. This yo-yo can be set in two ways, with a quarter circle forward or back, and this changes the property of the projectile. Doing a quarter circle forward has the yo-yo travel with a hitbox on its way to the opponent, making it -3 at worst and usually quite plus, after which it will stay on the screen for a couple seconds then return to Bridget. Bridget can also send it without a hitbox, which is obviously minus due to there not actually being a part that can hit the opponent, but on its way back will have a hitbox, letting Bridget easily jail into a powerful mix-up and score hits in neutral easily. The yo-yo can also be angled up or forward, and used in the air or on the ground, making this an incredibly powerful and versatile projectile. Once the yo-yo is out, Bridget's threat level increases tenfold as she unlocks her rolling movement special, one of the strongest mobility tools in the game. This sends Bridget flying towards the yo-yo's position with an active hitbox, and can be altered in many ways to make it near impossible to catch her flying around the screen. The roll could be delayed,
Steered up and down.
canceled to the normals, specials, and simply dropped to allow for Bridget to land safely, all without restricting Bridget into any long recovery other than the actual rolling part of the special move. This makes Bridget a nightmare to fight with the yo-yo out, but connecting an attack with her is the only way to remove the yo-yo from the screen, and playing passive is just asking for her to set up the hit on return yo-yo and starting her offense for free. Speaking of Bridget's offense, it's incredibly powerful thanks to rolling movement affording her, in most cases, completely safe high-low 50-50s through use of air delays and strong comboable lows. Bridget can also reset by sneaking hit on return yo-yo and block strings. Frame trap with numerous tools such as standard yo-yo, kickstart my heart, delayed gatlings, and rolling movement fades. Bridget also has a command grab that lets her set up the yo-yo for more mix-ups on connect, and can spend meter on more true 50-50s from kickstart my heart if the opponent blocks out a full string for one final hurrah. Bridget also ends block strings extremely safely thanks to her being able to push the opponent to a range with her long-range normals, then throw the yo-yo to end the block string and immediately force the opponent to come at her before starting the infuriating air movement from roll again.
Or Bridget can steal her turn by steering Kickstart My Heart to end right as it connects with the opponent, moving her plus.
Speaking of neutral, Bridget excels here too. With great range pokes that are all confirmable into knockdowns like 2S and 5H, it can be incredibly hard to get in on this yo-yo wielding assassin. Bridget also has even more incredible pokes in the air like JH and JS, and some great anti-airs in 6P and 2H that make stopping Bridget from just doing whatever she wants a nightmare.
So with all that being said, what is Bridget's big weakness? Well, her damage output can be considerably lower than a lot of other characters in the game, but outside of that, she's got no major flaws. Perks of being so flexible is you're never playing around any vulnerabilities. Bridget just goes with the flow. She's covered on defense with Starship, her meterless reversal, and while her supers aren't invuln, they both sport extra utility to help keep her going. Ultimately, Bridget is the character for players who like to play all-rounders, but don't like to feel mediocre at everything. She's a jack of all trades for sure, but certainly not a master of none. Sin Kiske may look like a powerful beefcake of a man who's got it all figured out, but that couldn't be farther from the truth. The kid's half gear and aged really fast. He's actually only 5 years old. Living with his grampy, none other than Soul Badguy, has really shifted the kid's development in a strange way. Sin is an expert fighter using techniques from both his father Kai and his guardian Soul to fight on the battlefield with a smile that you couldn't help but love right before he turns your smile to a frown. Sin's a bit of a prodigy, excelling at both his father's and grandfather's techniques, but right from the start, he unfortunately hits a small bump. Sin's round start is typically quite weak. His pokes either won't reach or will be slower than other characters' round starts, meaning he'll often have to simply walk back and whiff punish or challenge directly with high committal tools such as his sweep. However, much like Sin's balance history, things drastically improve from here. While he may not interact directly at round start well, landing whiff punishes can be incredibly rewarding for the boy thanks to his unique mechanic, Stamina. All his special moves have follow-ups at the cost of 1 stamina, of which he stores 3, that he can use for more powerful advantage on hit or block to transform his toolkit from low reward to terrifyingly deadly. When operating in neutral, Sin has potent long-range pokes such as Far Slash or 2S, with the former being a faster, longer-range poke and the latter being slightly slower but near impossible to whiff punish and also beating 6Ps.
On connect, Sin can follow up into Beak Driver in its follow-up to score a knockdown, and if he spins another stamina on Gazelle Step, he can turn these simple pokes into huge combo opportunities. In situations where Sin's buttons won't do the trick, he has one of the strongest neutral skips in the game with Elk Hunt. Elk Hunt is Sin's take on Stun Dipper, and while slower than Kai's version at 21 frames, goes just as far, and most importantly, Sin can spend stamina to make this move plus on block, which is something Kai could only dream of doing. Being able to spend stamina to jump straight into pressure forms the core of Sin's offense, as all of Sin's stamina follow-ups are plus on block and guard crush the opponent, meaning that should he use his stamina wisely, Sin can put you in strike throw mix-ups that Grandpa Soul couldn't even think about doing himself. Sin's also got high damage, serviceable frame traps, a plus on block 6k, safe block string enders in 5H and 6H, and the ability to score a combo off all his stamina follow-ups, including from Hoof Stomp, a 21 frame attack that hits overhead and jumps over lows and throws. Combine all these things together, and you've got a kid that, when firing on all cylinders, has offense that rivals even the most deadly opponents. That is, of course, when he is firing on all cylinders. Sin is exceptionally stunted when he runs out of stamina, with all of his special moves being punishable on hit, and his previously strong combo and pressure tools vanishing into thin air. And while stamina does come back at a reasonable pace, he can't do anything manually to make it come back faster, not even break the wall or use a super, so if Sin jumps the gun, he's gonna get burned. Luckily, Sin has a strong bailout in Hawkbaker, an invincible reversal second only to Baiken's parry thanks to Sin's ability to spend stamina to secure Oki after it hits, something only the two of them can do. Sin keeps up his prodigial streak when it comes to his supers, as both of them stand as some of the strongest in the entire game. Sin's Tyrant Barrel is his take on Soul's Tyrant Rave super, and, while it requires a timed button press, can deliver its clean hit from farther distances than Soul's can. And RTL, Sin's Ride the Lightning version, has the same unbelievable corner carry you'd expect from his father's super, while also sporting a final hit follow-up where Sin can dump the rest of his remaining meter to tack on absurd amounts of bonus damage. Believe it or not, it gets even better thanks to Sin's ability to Kara cancel his specials into these supers at the cost of 1 stamina, letting him nuke your life bar off a surprise overhead or convert pokes into an immediate Tyrant Barrel wall break. Sin's a growing boy, and as all children are, he's a little impatient. In matchup where his pokes aren't very effective and Elk Hunt can be checked easily, he can find it a little hard to make his way in on the opponent, and may be lacking the stamina to win the round once he does slide in. But with his high damage, ability to win off defense, and solid pressure, these issues are few and far between. If a moveset featuring the best hits of the game's 2 most prolific Shotos and then some sounds your style, Sin's here to play, and he really hopes you'll be his friend forever.
こんなもんかマジで来いよ
Brother. What do I do? I tried to stop him. I'm after the same person as you.
Bedman is the trapped soul of a dead man, sworn to protect his sister Delilah through the vessel of his mechanical bed. Bedman acts animalistically, ruthlessly throwing out powerful attacks to defend the girl and push through each and every fight, resulting in his core mechanic, Error State. After all of Bedman's special moves, a timer begins, at the end of which, Bedman will perform an automatic follow-up to said special move with no startup, active, or recovery frames. This can let Bedman safely win neutral, extend pressure, and route unique combos due to the properties of each special move's error follow-up. Bedman can use tools like 2S, 2K, and Far Slash to help with round start, and upon escaping, he usually likes to start zoning patterns to help get errors quickly. After gaining some distance, Bedman can fire off Needle, a quick projectile that tracks the opponent's position on startup and fires towards them. After this, Bedman gains Error Charge for Lightning Bolt, which tracks the opponent further and allows Bedman to take their turn provided they get enough space to activate the error automatically. This Lightning Bolt is usually used with P-Call, which summons the error instantly at the cost of actually having startup and recovery, but this is less than what it would be if Bedman just did another Needle. Bedman also has a long-range low check in 2H, and some admittedly mediocre but serviceable pokes in 2S and far slash. Where Bedman's neutral really shines is in the air. Bedman has a unique 8-way air dash that can be stalled for a certain duration similar to Bridget's rolling movement. After moving from the air dash, Bedman can act quickly to out of the air dash with a falling button or special move. His JS is a great air-to-air, and also vacuums the opponent, enabling disgusting cross-ups if the opponent ground blocks the attack. JH is a strong jump-in that multi-hits, making it hard to block correctly when combined with landing into a low, especially with Bedman's JD, which can be gatlinged into for an additional overhead. JD also serves utility as a second air stall after the 8-way air dash, making it even trickier to catch Bedman's air mobility. After scoring a hit, Bedman can combo into spinning top and get very powerful error stored. If Bedman can last long enough without blocking or getting hit, this error will summon a wall of fire that covers a large area of the screen and lets Bedman start pressure for free, and is significantly plus even when cancelled into using call. Bedman's pressure relies on using these errors to keep the opponent blocking, then either mixing them up with universal overheads, jumping high lows, or a strike throw. Bedman's final special move is a big fiery punch that is incredibly strong due to always being plus on block and inflicting guard crush. This move frame traps for high damage after most normals and can be charged to inflict more damage and blocks don't unconnect. This allows Bedman to more than safely end block strings, add additional chip damage to currently in progress block strings, frame trap opponents, and store a strong error, a head explosion that similarly guard crushes the opponent, but deals great damage on hit and is very comboable as well. When called, this special move can usually be mashed out of, but due to Bedman's tricky frame traps and confusing visuals, it can be difficult to spot this escape window, making Bedman's pressure overwhelming when performed correctly. A very unique characteristic of Bedman's offense is these confusing visuals. Bedman's arrows have big visual effects that clutter the screen, and Delilah runs around in the foreground instead of the background, allowing Bedman to sneak in otherwise fake options behind the smoke and mirrors. Of note is 6H, an incredibly slow but rewarding overhead that can be hitted quite well in the explosion of a head bomb. Bedman also has an install super that enhances every error and makes his neutral and offense truly scary to deal with, but the duration on the install is quite short, only allowing for a few enhanced errors before it ends. On defense, Bedman struggles a little. With a long jump startup, no meterless reversal, an exceptionally slow metered reversal, and the drawback of losing your error state on hit or block, it can be tough to get the opponent off of you. That being said, Bedman has the tools to perform in both neutral and on offense, and can effectively rely on system mechanics to escape block strings normally. Bedman tends to need an error or counter hit for his combos, with his standard hits usually being simple button into special conversions, but gaining the error after these special move enders is quite powerful as it lets Bedman start his most powerful offense. If all of this sounds appealing to you, learn to play Bedman, and you too can become Delilah's sworn protector. Asuka R Kreutz is a man who needs no introduction. Years of fans asking for the legendary character, that man, the devil, the gear maker to be playable have finally come to fruition with perhaps the most difficult character Guilty Gear has ever seen. Asuka has the absolute most going on under the hood in the entire game, having to understand and manage 3 decks of 30 spells, with different numbers of each spell, a mana mechanic, a shield mechanic, pulling new cards, switching decks for different scenarios, and knowing what each individual spell does and how to use it most effectively. Asuka has easily the highest skill floor out of any character, but his skill ceiling seems galactic too. Every single one of Asuka's spells is incredibly powerful when used correctly, and not a single one is useless, giving him absolutely the bulkiest toolkit in the game. Asuka can use spells for everything. His spells are his combos. His spells are his overheads and lows. His spells are his pressure. His spells are his zoning. His spells are his fuzzies. His spells are his reversals. His spells are his resource management. His spells are his movement. His spells are his other spells. His spells are everything. It would be impossible to summarize everything Asuka's spells can do without making a separate video on this character alone, so pay close attention to the footage, which will showcase tons of unique use cases for every spell as I talk. Knowing how to use these spells is of utmost importance, and it's way more complicated than just spending the ones you have. Each spell costs a card from a deck. Each deck only has a certain amount of each card, and there are 3 decks with different cards in them. Test Case 1 has a lot of projectiles, but also has a few mix-up tools and economy spells, making it the most well-rounded deck. Test Case 2 has a lot of mix-up spells, and Test Case 3 has unique and powerful effect spells that change the course of the match, but lacks physical spells like projectiles. Asuka needs to draw more cards to get more spells, and every spell he casts and card he draws takes mana. But if Asuka plays too passive, the enemy can take his mana away by hitting him or dealing chip damage. While Asuka has mana, his health is among the highest in the game, but without mana, Asuka takes a massive plus 40% damage and gets locked out of all of his spells until he gets mana again. Asuka can only recover mana with specific economy spells as well as the recover mana special, but even that gets complicated. Asuka can choose to recover mana slowly at no cost, medium speed at the cost of meter, and fast at the cost of HP. Choosing the recovery method you want is very important due to how detrimental running out of mana is, combined with how equally important having meter and health is for obvious reasons. Pokes such as 2S and 5H have a use as mediocre neutral pokes. Asuka's 2D is a long-range projectile that hard knockdowns on hit and is incredibly fast to boot, rivaling the range of Giovanna's 2D while easily outspeeding it. This is an incredibly strong normal to check movement, zone the opponent, and counter poke, but its weakness is that since it's a projectile, it doesn't become any more powerful on counter hit, and leaves Asuka in counter hit state himself. Asuka's offense depends on what spells he has, but almost every single projectile spell Asuka has is plus on block, meaning extended block strengths as long as you have the right spells stored. Of note is 808, a powerful guard crush that wall bounces in the corner. Asuka's combo game is incredibly strong, with very good combos both spellless and especially so with spells, and in the right conditions these combos can allow Asuka to go resource even on both his mana and spell cards, as well as deal a large chunk of damage to the opponent, which is amazing as a character who cares so much about his resources. A core trait of Asuka's offense is what players are lovingly and sometimes not lovingly referring to as the Exodia combo. With the right combination of spells, it can be almost impossible to halt the momentum of Asuka's wizardry, so looking out for the most powerful spells and cashing them all in at once can be a powerful path to a guaranteed victory. Asuka really struggles on defense. Since he loses mana on any damage, whether it be chip from specials or from getting hit, it can feel very threatening to have the opponent on top of you. Asuka has a reversal, but there's only one card in deck 1 and none in the other two. Additionally, Asuka completely lacks an invincible super, making his defense very subpar without use of YRC. That being said, Asuka's meter gain is very, very high. Casting spells builds meter, recovering cards builds meter, and making the opponent block builds meter, and you will be doing a lot of all of them. Asuka has great meter uses thanks to his ability to use RC to cover his much needed resources and his strong overdrives. High Compression Submicron Particle Sphere is a really long name for a fireball that is useful as a combo ender from long range and is a great tool to get hard knockdown on wall break, which Asuka really values. Bookmark Full Order is a very helpful super for deck management as it automatically fills Asuka's deck with spells and allows him to mill for whatever cards he wants. Asuka 100% has more than enough spells to get away with throwing some away, with 3 decks full of 30 cards, each for a total of 90 usable spells that all get refilled at the start of each round. If an incredibly challenging and currently underdeveloped character doesn't scare you, and an astoundingly vast toolkit with options for every scenario and then some sounds like the power you seek, open up your spellbook and look deep into the vast array of knowledge that is Asuka R Kreutz.
君は海面活性剤になりうる。
Johnny, captain of the Jellyfish Pirates, is a man who has it all. Johnny is a very unique style of character who has a combination of exceedingly powerful strengths that would push any character into broken tier status, but one singular defining weakness that balances him out. Johnny's round start is beyond exceptional, sporting the largest 9-frame far slash in the game, and extremely powerful neutral checks to dissuade opponents from 6P'ing it. Johnny's 2S is massive, fast, and scores some consistent conversions with high damage and corner carry on counter hit. All of Johnny's normals share these attributes, all being quite large, fast, and threatening powerful conversions on counter hit. But Johnny's normals aren't the only thing he has going for him. Johnny also sports the character-defining special, Mistfinder. Mistfinder is a long-range sword slash that can slice at 3 angles depending on the button Johnny uses to perform the special move. If Johnny holds down the button, he will stay in the stance, meaning the opponent doesn't know which one he's holding until it's too late. Mistfinder does lack reward on normal hit and is heavily punishable on block. But this problem is solved by Johnny's unique mechanic, Turn Up. Johnny's Deal special move sees him throw a playing card in one of 3 selectable positions that slowly falls to the ground. If he slashes through this card with Mistfinder, the card will activate a high-powered Sword Slash that is plus on block, launches for a combo on hit, and forces the opponent into the Guard Crush state, allowing Johnny to force a mix-up or restart his zoning. Speaking of Johnny's mix-ups, this character is no slouch on offense either. Johnny has the ability to use a card to combo off a 50-50 mix-up, using either a standard low or a Tiger Need version of his Air Mistfinder for an instant overhead. Johnny can also use Ensenga for throw baits, reset block strings with a quick card toss, end a block string with Mistfinder stance, then cancel it to start it again, or safely escape with a backsway Mistfinder. Johnny also sports some of the highest health in the game and a nothing extraordinary reversal in That's My Name, as well as the strong mid-range anti-fireball super Joker's Trick to keep pesky setup characters in their place. So I'm sure you're wondering, what is Johnny's Achilles heel? Well, that would be his movement. Johnny is the only character in Guilty Gear Strive with a traditional step dash, meaning he cannot block or interrupt it for the entirety of its duration. This combined with Johnny's abysmally slow walk speed means that Johnny can feel extremely out of control in regards to his own positioning. This combined with Johnny's noticeable lack of safe mid-range enders compared to similar characters in Axl and Testament leaves Johnny in an awkward spot where he always wants to poke at you from half to 3/4 screen, but isn't always able to position himself advantageously a lot of the time. Of course, it's not all bad. Johnny's dash is at a blazing fast 15 frames, making dash-up throws and quick burst mobility quite a potent strength for the man. And outside of that one weakness, Johnny truly is a character who brings it all to the table. If you want a loaded kit and don't mind holding your ground, go all in with Johnny. Elphelt Valentine is a character who pulls absolutely no punches. She may look like a sweetheart on the outside, but just one listen to her heavy metal music should be enough to tell you that this girl truly excels in an up-close fight. Elphelt is a character built around an incredibly powerful Unchained Circle style Rekka attack that allows her to force multiple looping 50-50s without any need to score a knockdown first or enter a stance like many other rushdown or mix-up characters. That being said, Elphelt is no slouch when it comes to the mid-range as well. She's certainly no Kiske, but with solid mid-range checks in Far Slash and 2S, a couple long-range, high-risk, high-reward attacks in 2H and 5H, and her Miss Charlotte, a projectile that homes in on the opponent's position halfway through its travel time and shoots again, Elphelt certainly has a clear-cut path to success in the mid-range. Elphelt also has a couple of neutral skipping tools in Bridle and Pineberry that can steal a return if the opponent isn't savvy enough at keeping them in check. If Elphelt is able to secure a hit, she can use Bridle to confirm into a knockdown and open the stage for the main attraction. Elphelt's offense is nightmarish. Her Pineberry alone is an extremely potent reset tool. This move is plus on block, lets her cancel into anything after its activation, which can allow for 50-50 mix-up scenarios, and is extremely hard to block even the initial hit correctly, giving her double-layered 50-50s in the right situation. But this move doesn't hold a candle to her Chain Lollipop Rekka series. This is a unique Rekka attack that can be restarted and go in multiple directions depending on the buttons Elphelt presses as she attacks. The Rekka begins with a quick mid, at which point Elphelt has 3 options. She can perform the mid again to bring her back to that first hit, or she can go overhead or low. Both of these mix-ups are completely unreactable and unfuzzyable, already making them potent enough. But after blocking this first mix-up, Elphelt has the option to do it all over again, choosing to either reset back into the first quick mid, go overhead or low one final time, or end the string with a safe block string ender. In a best case scenario, Elphelt can stay in this Rekka for 10 plus seconds, scoring hit after hit and forcing reset after reset, throwing Pineberries and throws to keep the opponent beaten into the ground for the entire round, as once Elphelt is in her Rekka, there is very little the opponent can do to escape. That being said, it would be misleading of me to pretend that blocking a single attack from Elphelt can always spell the end of the round. Elphelt has a notable weakness to 6P, as her Chain Lollipop starter loses on block to it except from 5 and 6H, and a number of her normal pokes, including 5H itself, loses to 6P on its own. Elphelt does have tools to call this out, such as 2S, 2H, and Pineberry, but an especially powerful 6P can sometimes win out against some of these moves anyways. This struggle can also extend to DPs, as Elphelt does leave gaps in between her Rekka follow-ups, letting opponents with reversals slip by unscathed. Of course, Elphelt has the ability to call out these defensive options and punish accordingly, and any opponent unfortunate enough to lack a strong 6P or DP might as well just put the controller down once this gunslinging girl gets going. Elphelt's only other notable flaw would be her low life and lack of a consistent reversal, with her Gigante al Parfeo having extremely high startup, allowing most of the cast to safe jump it. But even then, Elphelt has a 4-frame mash in her 2P to keep pesky attackers at bay. If an absolutely devastating offensive toolkit with multiple ways to skip right to it sounds like music to your ears, then ignite the drive in your soul with Elphelt Valentine. A.B.A, Guilty Gear's violently obsessive homunculus, is a powerful install character built around activating her Jealous Rage state, and swiftly dominating the round before running out. When A.B.A begins a round, she starts in her standard mode, and is significantly weaker than the rest of the cast. A.B.A is beyond sluggish, with the slowest dash and walk in the game, and next to no air game outside of her fast-falling JD. A.B.A's main objective is always escaping her standard mode and activating her Jealous Rage install. Jealous Rage is tied to the jealousy meter at the bottom of the screen. This meter starts half full and can be filled further by landing attacks involving Paracelsus, A.B.A's half-key, half-husband weapon, or by activating her unique counter. Luckily, A.B.A has quite a competent toolkit even without Jealous Rage to help her work towards her win condition. Her close range buttons are fast, with a 4-frame 2P, 6-frame 5K and 2K, and the ability to convert off of them into her Rekkas or Key Grab to knock the opponent down and build a huge chunk of jealousy. Her long-range tools are solid as well, with 5H being massive and disjointed, and her hop kick being incredible at swiftly moving A.B.A forward and hitting faraway opponents, accentuated by the fact that this attack has good high profile. This only gets stronger when you consider Haul and Heed, a slide that low profiles under mid attacks, meaning A.B.A's neutral game is covered with solid close-range pokes, solid long-range ones, and low and high-profile attacks. Once A.B.A has secured an advantage, she can activate Jealous Rage with either a manual install, by connecting her Key Grab, or by hitting her super. And this is where the real fun happens. Once in Jealous Rage, A.B.A becomes an absolute demon of a character, getting the fastest run, best jump arc, insane power-ups to all her normals, specials, and supers, and the powerful attack Danzai, a plus-on-block hyper-armored attack that blows through anything the opponent is trying to do to stop her. Of note is A.B.A's hop kick turning into a nigh unreactable overhead. This combined with her newfound ability to loop 50-50 high-low mix-ups on a jump-in, and the cherry on top of A.B.A's Rekkas gaining insane extra speed and range for easy conversions in neutral, makes Jealous Rage A.B.A easily the strongest character in the entire game. Of course, a good thing can't always last forever. While A.B.A is in Jealous Rage, her gauge drains continuously, and if you run out, A.B.A is forced into a recovery animation which gives the opponent ample time to advance and start pressuring her. But a smart A.B.A will make sure to keep the mode up by leaving and refreshing her jealousy gauge in combos and neutral. If you don't mind starting every round at a disadvantage and revel in the power found after achieving A.B.A's superpowered win condition, become the object of A.B.A's ever-burning flame of love and jealousy.
On themselves, they blame the beasts, heaven or hell.
Slayer, the ever-elegant dignitary of dandyism, is a slugger of a character who revels on hitting you with his dignified dukes and destroying your delicate defenses. His damage is top-notch, and combined with extremely fast neutral approaches, his unique teleport dash, and unreactable mix-ups, he's sure to dominate any opponent fool enough to stand up to the tenets of dandyism. Slayer's 5K is an exceptional round start which entices opponents to begin to counter it directly, and Slayer's 2H, Dandy Step, and Mappa Hunch make calling out these foolish combatants exceptionally rewarding. Slayer's neutral is unorthodox, as his teleport dash means he lacks the ability to dash block, and he can't interrupt his dash with buttons just like Johnny, but the near unseeable directional movement compared to his backdash makes this more of a unique attribute than a crippling weakness. Slayer's attacks also reinforce his unique movement's strengths, with his 2H being a strong disjointed low useful for walling opponents trying to safely approach, or 6P's Mappa Hunch. An exceptionally powerful lariat with solid reward on counter hit and plus frames of space correctly, combined with more respectable neutral pokes such as his 5K, 2K, and the sliding sweep 2D makes Slayer more than frightening to stare down at the mid-range. If Slayer is able to secure an opening, his offense is almost deific in strength. Slayer stands with Soul as the only two characters with a plus-on-block far slash, has exceptional ways to reinforce these plus frames with scary counter hits, and has without a doubt the highest damage in the game. Off a single blocked attack, Slayer builds you enough risk for his next hit to be a touch of death, especially if that hit is Pile Bunker, a life bar nuke available to him from his backsway Rekka Dandy Step. Dandy Step is an offensive tool designed to entice the opponent to begin to act rash to deny its use, and then punish said decision-making with explosive damage using the aforementioned Pile Bunker. Dandy Step has 4 follows, with P granting you Pile Bunker, K granting you an unreactable low, S an unreactable overhead, and H a leaping reset that leaves Slayer heavily plus, guard crushes the opponent, and sets him up for teleport dash mix-ups. All of these follow-ups are mashable following Slayer's normal attacks, but this enticement to disrespect lets Slayer destroy the opponent with a counter hit from Pile Bunker, which will frame trap these mash attempts and often kill the opponent at full HP. As if Slayer's offense needed to be any more disgusting, he can also use Dandy Step to cross the opponent up, following with a quick Pile Bunker to nuke their life bar off a surprise cross-up with meter. And Slayer's Blood-Sucking Universe command grab not only acts as an untechable throw, but powers up Slayer's next hit, guaranteeing a special Universe counter that unlocks new combo options for him. Picking a character with offense this good and damage this high is truly a once-in-a-lifetime experience, but Slayer doesn't come without his sore spots. Slayer's defense is of note, as while his mash outs aren't bad, he lacks a reversal super. Slayer's only unique tool on defense is Hand of Doom, a follow-up from his backdash that lets Slayer counterattack, but this attack loses invuln before its active frames and is extremely punishable on block, meaning a lot of the cast can option select it and punish for high damage. It is not will, nor pride, nor victory, nor death that truly decides a battle. Nor is it the ability to manipulate or dominate others. The most important thing in life is, of course, dandyism. If you agree with the tenets of dandyism, stand strong with the ever-elegant vampire Slayer and dominate your competition.
And
that does it for this batch of character overviews. If this video performs well, I'll make another annual release next year, including Season Pass 4's incoming characters, but for now, let's get into the Archetype Roundup. I believe the cast of Guilty Gear Strive shines most when focusing on their unique attributes, as 2 characters within the same archetype can play totally differently when factoring them in. But if you're torn between a few characters, these archetypes will help you get a better sense for the broad playstyles available throughout the roster. Characters will repeat among categories, as many split their focus on multiple defining characteristics from various archetypes. All-Rounders are your jack-of-all-trades characters who feature a heavily adaptable kit suited for any situation. These characters often have solid burst mobility, solid buttons, an invincible reversal, and solid reward off their hits, with the trade-off that whatever aspects their core design focuses away from tend to be mediocre at best. Soul Badguy, Kai Kiske, Chipp Zanuff, Leo Whitefang, Bridget, and Sin Kiske represent the All-Rounders. Mid-rangers are characters who focused on, you guessed it, the mid-range. These characters often have exceptional round start, incredible neutral attacks, and non-committal options to ensure they never have to play anywhere on the screen they don't want to. Your mid-rangers are Kiske, Ramlethal, Nagoriyuki, and Johnny. The Zoner is a classic archetype similar to the mid-ranger, focused on controlling the screen with massive attacks from way outside where the opponent can fight back. These characters have the highest range in the game, and often win by doing small ticks of consistent damage, but sacrifice either offensive potential or mobility for their long range. Strive Zoners include Axl, Faust, Zato, Testament, Bedman, Asuka, and Johnny. Grapplers are terrifying characters built on hard callouts, high damage, and most importantly, devastating throws. These characters sacrifice mobility to a significant degree, but force guesses from the opponent that can instantly end the round if they make their way in. Interestingly, the only true grappler in Strive is Potemkin, but a lot of characters do have command grabs if you just like the flavor of an untechable throw. Bruisers are a relatively new character concept designed for short but sweet offensive sequences with high damage frame traps and lots of opportunities to reset the block string from the top and do it all over again. Where a grappler makes you guess between strike and throw, a bruiser makes you guess between strike and reset. And when you think you've got them all figured out, they'll throw you anyways to chip away at your life bar and start their terrifying pressure all over. They lack huge screen control or lockdown potential and tend to not be great at approaching long-range opponents, some even preferring to play defensive with their high damage attacks. Strive has a lot of bruisers, featuring Soul Badguy, A.B.A, Giovanna, Anji, Goldlewis, Baiken, and Slayer representing the archetype. Rushdown characters are all about their speed. These characters want to close the distance on the opponent as fast as possible, then run their strong offense to run the opponent over like a truck. They feature many fast mobility tools, ways to quickly shift their hurtbox, and surprise options to jump right to their advantage. Strive's rushdown roster includes A.B.A, Chipp, Geo, Ino, Sin, and Elphelt. Pixie characters are of an archetype closely relating to their extremely lightweight class. Pixies will have extremely low health, but excel in an abundance of traits such as high mobility, strong mix-ups, and powerful neutral. Strive includes Guilty Gear's two legacy Pixie characters, Chipp and Millia. The polar opposite of Pixies, heavyweights are big, slow, lumbering characters who have significant difficulties with mobility and often have high recovery attacks, making their neutral a bit awkward, but tend to have unbelievably strong offense, damage, and HP. Potemkin, Nagoriyuki, Goldlewis, Bedman, and A.B.A represent the heavyweight archetype. Set play characters are a staple of Guilty Gear's core identity, being characters focused around creating semi-permanent screen presence with a disconnected object to enable them to zone, approach, mix the opponent, or reposition safely. Faust, Millia, Zato, Happy Chaos, Testament, Bridget, Bedman, Asuka, and Johnny all focus their kits around strong set play options. Mix-up characters focus away from explosive damage and linear strike throw, and instead throw the opponent into the blender, forcing them to block unreactable highs, lows, same sides, and cross-ups. Chipp, Millia, Zato, Leo, Ino, Happy Chaos, Bridget, Elphelt, and A.B.A all have a high propensity for the schmitz. Puppet characters are a very unique style of character built around direct control of a separate entity similar to playing as two characters at once. Zato is the game's most traditional puppet character, but Zato also sports puppet character DNA. There are a lot of unique resources in Strive, and resource characters rely on whatever theirs may be heavily. When out of resources, these characters struggle immensely, but are often awarded tools that would be way too strong if not limited by a resource as compensation. Ramlethal, Nagoriyuki, Zato, Happy Chaos, Sin, Asuka, and A.B.A all rely heavily on an extremely strong resource to keep them running. And with that done, that finally wraps up the Guilty Gear Strive character overviews for Season 4. If you liked this video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. This video has been a project of mine for almost 2 years now, and the immense work I put into making sure all of the information stays accurate and up to date is no easy task. Additionally, if you enjoyed these animated character intros, consider joining my YouTube membership program, as you'll gain access to a full extended AMV featuring footage that didn't make it into the video, as well as a bunch of other perks. For now though, that's all. This has been Eddventure, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.
Rock and roll, rock hard.